Welcome to the Leadership Corner. Today I have my wonderful guest, jbridges. She's a technical recruiter at GovSpend in the DEI space. So welcome, JK. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I appreciate it and delighted to be here.
Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about DEI and how it relates to your organization?
Absolutely. So here with GovSpend, I am head of corporate technical talent acquisition. And under the umbrella of diversity, equity, and inclusion, my goal is really working with individuals, for example, transitioning military personnel, veterans, women in the tech industry. That's really a big push for our organization right now. In the technology space as a whole, women rank less than 2%. And then when you start looking at women of color, the Black, the brown, and even the Asian demographic, the numbers are even less than the 2%. So those are some of the big pushes that we have right now. And there's a few other things that I will talk about as the conversation goes on, but that's just to kind of give you a little snippet of what we're currently doing right now.
Okay, so how are you moving forward with some of these deficiencies as far as women in the tech industry? I also saw an article where there's, a deficiency also in women in leadership positions, et cetera. So how is that being addressed through your diversity and inclusion work?
That's a great question. So here within our organization, I'm very proud to say that, we have had upper leadership, meaning, our corporate executives, even our board of directors, and definitely our CEO and COO. They've been very receptive to making sure that GovSpend is all part of the DE&I space. And in doing so, my fellow colleagues and I that's in the DE&I area here within the organization, we've been able to put together quite a few different initiatives that we presented to them in which they've been very receptive to. Now, those initiatives look a number of different ways. We do that by being very visible within our respective communities, because each of us live in different states and so forth. The company as a whole also do a lot of sponsorships. And when I say sponsorships, meaning, we coordinate as well as organize things with different tech schools. We do a lot of things within the STEM industry. Say, for instance, if there's conferences or workshops, we always like to be a visible part of that, whether we are a sponsor or whether, we happen to have a booth available so that we can educate individuals as well as offer opportunities of employment.
Okay, now, when we say diversity and inclusion, right, just to give people a better understanding of what both of those terms mean individually, and then they can understand what it means collectively. Diversity, right? One thing that I think I know about diversity is, and especially in the workplace, right? When you have these different teams, you want to make sure that everyone's different experience and background is accounted for, right? Because one way that you handle a situation or an issue may be different in relation to what someone else has done in their previous experience or background. And that kind of helps put together a more solid answer to whatever issue or problem it is, because you have that varying background and experience as a part of the discussion.
That's certainly the way to look at it from a management perspective, meaning if you're managing a team. With regard to those of us in talent acquisition, diversity kind of looks a little bit different for us. We do take under advisement a person's background. However, when we use the term diversity, we're looking at diverse persons. Oftentimes when people hear of diversity hiring, there's a stigma out there, that people automatically think we're referring to only people of color. And that is not the case. Diversity does not mean just persons of color. Diversity means we're hiring individuals that is underserved, underrepresented demographics, which of course goes back to one of the examples I used earlier. Diversity would be women in tech because the percentages are so low. It would also be certain demographics within the tech community, such as the LGBTQI. They're not as well represented within the tech community. You also have ageism. Yes, that is a term that SHRM has now recognized that now falls under the DE&I umbrella, where there's been a lot of corporations over the years, 10, 15 years ago, where essentially if you hit a certain age, people were pushing you out the door, so to speak. And a lot of frivolous things were being done to get that person out of the door. It wasn't because they had done anything inappropriate, but because it was perceived that that person was of a certain age, it was time for them to go. So DE&I, a lot of the things that fall under that umbrella protects these individuals, as well as it gives him or her the opportunities that they otherwise would not be awarded.
Okay, well put. And thanks for clarifying the full understanding of what diversion is. Now let's talk about inclusion, right? Excuse me, diversity. Now let's talk about inclusion. Inclusion in my mind is, and I'm pretty sure you'll square me away, is making sure that everyone feels like they have a voice.
Now that you are correct on, you are 100% spot on that. Inclusion definitely means that it gives everyone an opportunity to be seen, heard, as well as recognized. Inclusion means that individuals that may appear to be different, and of course, you know, appearance can be subjective, yes? So it's a way for corporations being held with a form of accountability without getting ourselves into a jam. For me, I'm one of the fortunate ones that's on the talent acquisition side of things. I came from an HR background, so I'm very familiar with HR law, labor law. So there's a lot of things that works to my advantage. So when I am recruiting, you know, now I know in more ways than one, all the do's and the don'ts of, you know, what can become a problem. So yes, that is definitely what inclusion looks like for us.
Okay, now, when you said you presented this to leadership, how you were going to handle with your diversity and inclusion, how was that? Was that more about PowerPoint? And with every leader of an organization, I would think that this is a very, very important topic, right? Especially at this point when the workforce is getting smaller, right? People are leaving through whatever natural circumstances, you know, such as COVID, et cetera. People are deciding to, hey, you know, I want to stay home, and they're demanding more remote and demanding some things on a job that they wouldn't otherwise demand. So as people are leaving, I can imagine that diversity and inclusion is one of the key things that would really touch people personally, where you can maintain some of those help.
Right, exactly. That's a great point. And when you pose the question, what did it look like when we presented things to our executive leadership? It actually looked a number of different ways. So when we first started, it was just like what you and I are doing. It was a verbal conversation. I'm one of those people, I believe in pen and paper, because my grandmother always taught me paper don't lie, right? So then now you start a paper trail. And so we was able, my team and I, especially my fellow colleagues, she's phenomenal that I works with, Candace, you know, she was able to get with a lot of the management because she was with the organization before I came aboard. She had already started creating the DE&I platform right at almost 3 years prior. And then since I've been here, you know, she had a great respect, a great regard for what my experiences that I brought to the table, knowing that I've been in this space for so long. And so we collectively was able to put together a written proposal that we've submitted to upper management, and then they in turn have gone to the board. We have a phenomenal management, which is the head of human resource, VP of HR, I meant to say, and she has been 100% on board, supporting us both verbally as well as in many other aspects. And so, I think it just takes things like that, if you will, Frank, to make sure that when you say that you are an organization that is diverse, when you say that you are an organization that have a DE&I platform, it takes things like this. It takes people like what we have, such as Kristen, that's the head of corporate HR and recruiting, because she's like the boss of all of us, so to speak. And so, it takes individuals like her to help push these initiatives, because honestly, we're on the ground floor and we can't do it by ourselves. But Candace and I have been very fortunate. We've been able to do things like this on a quarterly basis. What we're getting ready to do for 2022 is we will be implementing guest speakers that come from a diverse background to serve as speakers to us internally. This is where the entire company comes together on this DE&I platform, and we provide information to educate the entire organization, all the way from regular employees, whether you're in our customer service division to sales division. And it's a way to enlighten people to what DE&I is really all about. And it's also one of our corporate objectives to highlight the different aspects of DE&I so that we can break down those walls and tear down the barriers of the stigma of people thinking that DE&I is only with regard to persons of color.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, you did a great job there breaking it down. I'm enlightened. I'm pretty sure that anyone that's going to be listening in is going to be enlightened as well. I was going to ask you some leadership challenges that you may have had within your job and getting this task done and brought to leadership, but it seems like they were pretty receptive. Was there any challenges along that way, or any that you want to share as far as leadership goes?
I don't ever want to try and sugarcoat it and make it seem like there wasn't some challenges. But for me, I'm a very competitive person. It's just kind of part of my nature. So, when I feel that something is a challenge, I'm going to always find a creative way to think outside the box, so that I can overcome that challenge. So to answer your question, were there some challenges? Were there some pushback? There was some. However, I will admit, I didn't see as much pushback here with GovSpin as I have experienced with some previous organizations that I was with. Just to kind of briefly touch on, previous objections. Some of the previous objections is I've experienced, individuals that was in upper management, more on an executive level, where they would say things of the fact, well, we don't want to give the impression that we're doing too much for this particular sector. Say, for example, maybe like the LGBTQIA community, or maybe someone else may say, well, we don't want to seem like we're doing too much, within, the Asian community, et cetera, et cetera. And see, that's where individuals that's on that level, on the executive or even your board of directors, that's where they need to trust that individuals such as myself, I'm in this realm. I deal with it every day because I'm the one that's hiring these individuals that's come aboard. So it is most crucial and imperative that you do adhere and heed to the suggestions that individuals like myself is offering to you. Because think about it. No one wants to employ with an organization that say they're part of DE&I, but yet we don't see one individual that looks diverse, all the way from your board of directors to your corporate executives to even individuals that's just in, what we call team or department management. Yeah. So that's why it is crucial that you make sure you have a very solid mixture of individuals, whether it's, irrespective to the person's socioeconomic group, irrespective to their ethnicities, and definitely even irrespective to what their sexual classes may be. So all of those factors have to be be taken under consideration and advisement when you're truly building out what is identified as a true, and most importantly, the word I'm going to emphasize here, authentic DE&I team.
Yes, ma'am. And you just hit on the point about the diversity and inclusion when you're talking about leadership within a company.
Yes.
And by no means am I saying, and I don't think you are, that you should risk the qualifications of a person to meet some of those needs. But when I'm looking at a company, I kind of look at their homepage.
Of course, rightfully
Right?
so.
Look at
I
their
do too.
homepage. Yes, obviously to learn, about the company, their vision, mission, all those things, because those are great pointers when you're in an interview, right? Or read the leadership's bio, because there might be a connection, right, between you and someone that you may see in an interview. Or so I used to do that and still do that, right? But it's also kind of glaring when they have 5, 6, 7, 8 persons in the leadership, and you see the pictures and the bios, and none of them look like you.
Right. No one is
Myself.
representative of your community.
Yes. So
correct.
I'm not saying that it sends out an alert, because qualifications are qualifications. But if you're an attentive person, you do pay attention to that.
Yes, and you're right. I mean, nowhere am I saying or even remotely suggesting that diversity hiring will overlook one's skill set. However, the statistics and the facts, keyword here, the facts support the evidence that there have been far too many circumstances where there were individuals that do fall in the DE&I category, and they were not given the opportunity. And keyword meaning given the opportunity. That doesn't mean given the job. When we say given the opportunity, that means allow that person an opportunity to go through the hiring process, let them interview, take a serious look at their resume. Whereas there have been other instances where someone, let's say maybe of non-color, that didn't even remotely have the educational background or even the expertise, and they were never given the chance. I mean, I will be very honest with you. I've had it to happen to me over the years. I've been in the recruitment and corporate talent acquisition industry almost 30 years, a total of 26 plus years. And, I'm an educated individual, have a degree, even have courses towards a master's. And there are individuals that have gotten hired that didn't even have remotely near any of the years of experience that I had, or even a college degree, but yet they ended up getting hired in positions over me that where now in an indirect way, I was reporting to him or her, but yet I was always good enough to train him or her. So that is what DE&I is all about. And that is why, the U.S. Department of Labor was able to go ahead and implement these type of initiatives that now SHRM, which is basically, I'm going to loosely say, is the governing body for helping enforce a lot of the rules and regulations under the U.S. Department of Labor law. So I do appreciate SHRM for that.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else left to say? I think the conversation has been pretty eloquently put, and the scriptures have really kind of explained exactly what diversity and inclusion is, and some of the challenges that everyone's facing with it, and the support that needs to be had with diversity and inclusion. So I thank you. Do you have anything else to add as far as leadership or diversity and inclusion?
I guess the only thing that I would kind of close this conversation out by saying is that, if there are any organizations out there that's listening, especially people that's in management, if they have any questions with regard to what they can do or what they should be doing to make their organization as a whole a bit more representative of the communities in which they either work in, employ, or even that they want to do business with. I would definitely encourage them, center around your corporate talent acquisition personnel. Make sure you're hiring individuals that is well versed within the DE&I space that can properly convey that, so that we can get away from a lot of the myths and the stereotypes that is associated with DE&I. That would be the biggest takeaway that I would love to, spread, from this entire, session here. It's just making sure we get away from the stereotypes. That is one of the things that I see so often when I'm on LinkedIn. I'll be scrolling through and I see all the different things, and I'll see the various comments where people say, "Oh, another DE&I post. Oh, another thing about hiring people of color." And again, I cannot say it enough. DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is not, let me emphasize, people, it is not solely about persons of color. And if you're uncertain what DE&I mean, what it represent, and whom it represent, whether anybody knows it or not, DE&I actually represent every single person it is, that exists, because we all are of some type of background. We all belong to some type of culture, ethnicity. We all are a part of some type of faith or doctrine. And so all of that falls under DE&I. So when you really think about it, DE&I is really all inclusive.
Yes, ma'am. You got me saying yes, ma'am. I feel like I'm in a class and
I admit I am very passionate about it. I really am. And thank you for listening. Thank you for, allowing me the opportunity to be able to be a teacher and an educator on this, because honestly, you cannot be within the space of DE&I without being an advocate for it. And I do pride myself in being a DE&I advocate. I often refer to myself as a DE&I warrior, but first and foremost, as you see behind me, I am a servant leader, and I take that very seriously. And I proudly, announce that about myself. It's even on my profile, and I don't shy away from it.
Yes. Once again, JK, I'm so honored to have had you here.
Thank you.
I've seen some of your posts on LinkedIn, so I was like, man, she's making some pretty powerful moves, and the moves that you are making seem to be so genuine. I said I had to actually talk to you one-on-one and let everyone else hear your words one-on-one as well. So
thank
it's
you.
been a pleasure.
Yes, likewise, it's been my pleasure as well. I encourage your audience, please follow me on LinkedIn. You can find me under jbridges. I speak Southern.
Yes, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm a Southern boy too. Yes. Okay, well, thank you once again. And everyone out there, please subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. So thank you again, JK.